Addiction to social media and violent video games are said to be some of the factors that are pushing children to suicide. And this is coming from founder of Choose Life International, Dr. Donovan Thomas, who will be joining us by phone to expound on that. And in studio, we have Lorraine Bailey Gray. She attempted suicide as a teenager, but now she's a motivational speaker.
Yes, I am.
Nurse Bailey Gray and Dr. Henley Morgan, member of the organizing committee for Choose Life International. Good morning, everyone.
Good
Welcome
morning.
to Smile
Good
Jamaica.
morning.
Good
Morning,
morning,
Jamaica.
Dr. Thomas.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Morning, Dr. Thomas. Suicide. I can't understand why someone would even think of that. But obviously, we're thinking about it too much, Dr. Morgan.
Well, just about everybody who has ever committed suicide, once like you, thought they could never, ever do it. Mm-hmm. But you know, depression is like the common cold or flu. It's in the atmosphere. We live in a very stressful environment, especially in Jamaica. And so we're all potential victims. So we need to be aware in terms of our own vulnerability and aware when we see the symptoms or signs being shown by people around us.
Yeah, Nurse Daly already said that you attempted. Did you attempt it or did you think about it?
I attempted.
What did you do?
I took some tablets. I took some antidepressants, overdosed on them.
You knew what you were doing, obviously.
I made a decision to do what I did.
Why?
I was feeling hopeless at the time. I was very sad, very depressed.
Why?
Because at that time I was going through some strenuous emotional events in my life. Mm-hmm. And even though at the time I felt as if I don't want to, it came to my mind on numerous occasions, but I never wanted to. But there came a point in my life where I felt as if I just couldn't manage it anymore. Mm-hmm. I just didn't want to live through it anymore. So I made a conscious decision that night to overdose on the tablets.
What changed for you?
Since then?
Well, having attempted it, realizing that you are still with us, what were some of the first things that came through your mind? I'm glad it didn't happen. What did you think?
I thought that purpose prevailed.
Okay.
One, because there are times when things will happen to individuals in their lifetime, and my philosophy is nothing happens to you by chance. Mm-hmm. God has everything in his hand. And I do believe that I walked that road and recovered because there are individuals out there who are in need of somebody who has actually been through it, mm-hmm. and actually felt depressed and are able to say, look here, you feel hopeless, but there is hope.
Donovan? Dr. Thomas? All right,
can you hear us, Dr. Thomas? I can remember.
Well, you know, just sitting here listening, and I realize maybe in my teenage years when my parents shipped me off to the U.S., I too had suicidal thoughts. Today is World Suicide Day, and Choose Life International, to commemorate the day, is putting on 2 seminars, one in Montego Bay today and one on the 13th in Kingston at the Conference Center. And the theme is suicide, murder, and murder-suicide. Now, most people have a basic understanding of what suicide. People take their own life. Murder-suicide, seen a lot of it. Somebody in rage, depression, whatever, kills someone, maybe a lover, and then themselves. Murder. I'm coming from the belly of the beast. Neville, you know this. It's a big difference between a guy who is sitting on the corner saying, no, now go on, and one who is on a football team with his ability. It's called precipital suicide. And I hear a lot of time in the inner city people say, boy, where you throw away your life for? If you do that, you throw away your life. And I would estimate maybe as many as 15% of homicides may be precipitated by suicidal thoughts.
Sir, according to
it's a big problem.
Yeah, according to police data, 61 people committed suicide in Jamaica last year. 56 males. Why?
Well, worldwide, 800,000. Every 40 seconds, someone commits suicide.
Yeah, I meant when I said why, I kind of meant
Why male?
why male as opposed to
And well, the statistics actually show that more female commit suicide than male. And I
Overall.
think overall.
but
But in Jamaica, it
in
suggests
Jamaica,
that more men are than women.
I think if we went to the statistics and look at it in its completeness, you would find it's the same in Jamaica. But male, female, still alive. And the why is important. The why is not so much that someone was depressed or sad or the victim of a loss, love gone wrong. The why is nobody helped. Nobody saw it. Nobody intervened. And if that happened, you know what's the greatest antidote? Happiness.
But Dr. Morgan, I'm
Happy
hearing,
people don't kill themselves, Donovan Thomas often
I'm
says.
hearing you. Is Dr. Thomas back? Because there's a question I wanted to ask him. Because sometimes, Lorraine, family members don't see it coming. I've seen instances where people have said, but he or she was such a happy person. He or she had achieved so much that they never see it coming.
Yes.
Do you hide sometimes these feelings from the ones close to you? When you
Yes.
are going, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There are times when you feel as if nobody around you really understand. And sometimes the expectation that they have of you as an individual causes you to wear a mask. And we see a lot of teenagers wearing a mask. They will be happy around you, seemingly happy, and they'll seem as if everything is okay at school. Teachers won't even know what is happening. But deep within, there is a cry. And it is sometimes for us as adults to look at every area of an individual life. They might mention something like, I just can't bother. Just that word, that term can cause you to pick up on something that something is actually wrong. And if the child or a teenager might seem a bit withdrawn in certain area and over enthusiastic about certain things, because there are times when you over exaggerate. And when persons laugh a lot, most times they have something on the inside that they're trying to cover up, not wanting you to see.
Nurse Bailey Grape, you already said you were going through obviously tough times, and
Yes.
you don't have to share, obviously. But is there anything specific you could tell us that was going on with you at the time? What drove you to think about that or to almost do it?
All right. There were other times I actually attempted, but there were other times I thought about it. When I actually attempted, I will just state this part. I liked somebody, and this is something that a lot of teenagers are going through at the moment. There was somebody in my life that I loved, and it seemed as if even though the individual was showing interest in me, it wasn't meant to be based on the circumstances, and I felt as if persons were rejecting me because maybe I wasn't good enough. And based on all of those things, growing up with rejection and all different kind of issues in my life, that just added to it.
Yeah, Delia just said that people hide things. Did anyone close to you know that you were going through all of this and even thought that maybe you were thinking about suicide?
No, not really. Apart from Faith Thomas, she saw signs. She's a counselor. She saw signs. And when I was on the antidepressants, she asked my roommate at the time to administer the medications because she realized that I was actually depressed.
How did you get out of all of this?
God, counseling, talking. You made mention earlier, why is it that you'll see an influx of male suicide opposing to female? Women love to talk. And even if there are times when we might not talk on a broad sense, we'll find a friend and talk about our circumstances, and that helps. And what has changed in my situation is that I have now opened a broad spectrum of persons who I'm accountable to. So if I'm feeling down about a particular situation, I don't keep it in. I'm at church, I will talk. If I feel as if I'm going through a hard time, I will talk.
Have you ever thought about, since that time?
Suicide, it comes to mind a lot of time. But guess what? Even though it comes to my mind, I know that there is hope.
All right.
Oh,
Good.
Hope.
Choose
It's
Life
just so
International is having an event.
yes,
now?
and I say about that. By the way, I'm happy to hear about the church in your recovery, because the church is one of the biggest hiding place for suicide. Stand up, clap your hands, shout, praise the Lord. And if you are depressed, then you're sinning. But with the conference, as I said today in Montego Bay, at Holiday Inn, still time to rush out and to register. In Kingston, on the 13th, at the conference center, 7,500. You get group discounts, and they're particularly reaching out to schools and to churches and to various institutions and local and international speakers. And many of the topics, they are very practical, hands-on, answering some of the very questions that have been raised in this interview.
Thanks a lot. I have a very, very good friend who called me one Sunday morning just to say that she couldn't take life anymore and she was going to kill herself. Well, I almost passed out. So I jumped in my car and I was heading to her, and I remembered Dr. Thomas, and I called him and I asked her if she would speak with him, and she said yes, and she did, and she's fine. She has moved on, but she's fine now. So
Intervention.
It's amazing testimony.
and it's something like what Nurse Bailey Gray said, that you need to talk, you know. So if you have that feeling, you just need to talk it out.
There's always hope.
Yeah.
So knowledge,
Yeah.
along with happiness, is the antidote. So I'd just like to encourage those who are viewing, those listening, to just make the effort to go to these seminars where your level of awareness will be raised. So when we face these situations in ourselves or someone we know, we'll know what to do.
Thanks for
And
coming.
if you feel suicidal, please reach out to someone.
Thanks for coming.
Exactly.
Nurse Lorraine Bailey Gray, Dr. Henley Morgan, member of the organizing committee for Choose Life International. And earlier you heard from Dr. Donovan Thomas. He's the founder of Choose Life International.